Shael said, I know God can give us love beyond understanding. Can we slash are we supposed to give love past understanding?
I think that's a good question. I think yes, and here's why. Because we're not called to understand everything, right? We're limited beings. And since we're limited beings, there's not everything that we're going to wrap our minds around evenly to then be able to make a decision. Do I love this person or do I not? Right? There's a lot of intricacies about each individual that God has uniquely created that we won't always or forever know. But that doesn't mean that I have a stopping point with my love. I love you for as much as I know, but the stuff that I don't know, I might kind of hold off and might kind of hate you in some areas because I really don't know. But I mean, if you reveal it to me, then I'll make a decision. I think I think that could be an inconsistent kind of love and almost like a wishy-washy. And I don't even think that would be love. I think that'd be more like you like that person, like you're fond of them. But to say that you love them, I think love is through and through for the good and the bad, for the known and unknown. I think here's a good picture that's kind of come to my mind. But back when World War II happened and took off, and the Nazis and everything that they did, killing over 6 million Jews, all of those kinds of statistics that took place. And a woman survived these attacks, these horrible things that took place. And she went through a whole lot of time of trauma recovery, a whole lot of time of healing. But I'm just going to jump cut to this end because I think this might prove a little bit of kind of where you might be getting at. She was speaking somewhere. And at the end of her speech, as she was kind of calling into remembrance all the things that happened and people were asking her questions, what was her thoughts, her experiences, all those kinds of things, there was a Nazi German soldier that approached her. She remembered his face. She remembered all of these things. And all of a sudden, all of this stuff that she remembered going through was flooding her mind again. And in the face of this individual, he tells her, yep, I was a soldier. I was, with Team Hitler. I was with all that, right? And he deeply apologized. Okay, this was kind of like one of those crazy moments. And she's looking eye to eye. And he offers his hand for a handshake. And she vividly remembers, she's like, man, I couldn't even move. I couldn't even move. Like I just didn't know what to say, didn't know what to do. And in that moment, she asked for the love of God to just flow out of her because naturally, she wasn't going to do it. She couldn't go through with it. But it was in that moment where she asked for the love of God to flood through her. And she offered and shook his hand. It's like a moment of reconciliation, a moment of forgiveness, all of those kinds of things. And so in a moment like that, to witness something so tragic, so terrible, so off the walls, things that you will never understand in their minds, why they did it and what was their motive behind it. And if anything, why you were in the midst of all of it. She probably didn't understand what was completely happening and why it happened, but it was still love that moved through her to allow her to forgive him face to face, something a lot of those survivors in that time probably didn't do, probably didn't get a chance to do, but she did. And so I think love, man, that isn't limited to our understanding. I definitely think it surpasses it. And I just don't know if measuring our love based on what we know and we don't know is a fair way to move, at least biblically. D, what are your thoughts? So maybe.
Yeah, I like all of that. On a base human level, under the sun, take away God. It is really tough to understand, but the more we walk with God, I don't want you to feel like it's something that you don't understand or don't understand how to do because you know who it comes from, that you should understand, and you know its power, and you know that you are called to do it. And so you know it's something that's possible. And when you understand all of that, it allows you to deploy it. And when there are tough times and people are being disrespectful, you should understand that you should meet it with everything that you want to. And that's what that woman did understand. She was like, oh, something's wrong here. Because let's say her name was Kathy. Kathy wants to uppercut this ninja. So God, please, Jesus, take the wheel. And I think that, and again, I'm arguing semantics. Like, I think it does 100%, like Grape says, transcend our blind human capacity. But this is what transforming our mind looks like. That's kind of what he's saying. Transform your mind to think in a transcendent way from how you were initially. Like, that's being born again. Like, I was this way, I'm new spiritually and I need to start thinking new too. And so it's this process that, yes, the people around you won't understand. I think you should understand it. And that's where your power comes from. Like, and that's when you can depend on it, because I've had situations in my life where the person I was dealing with on the surface was a little tough. Was and the video I'm going to share at the end, the guy talks about that. He actually says he doesn't believe there's a such thing as a bad kid. He said, he said when he was in that juvenile spot, he was spending time with kids that had killed their parents, people that had stabbed. He said some dude stabbed his best friend 90 times, something like that. And he was like, I would see these kids and they would still cry. They would be sad. They had pain that they were dealing with. So he said, I don't think there's bad kids. There's just hurt kids. And I believe that, man. I don't think I can say that necessarily everywhere and people would feel me. But the closer I've gotten to God and the closer I've understood myself and the different pains that I have and how I act, and I've been blessed to coach a lot of people and have a lot of good people around me, just be open and honest. And it's true, man. Some of the loudest, barking, craziest people that you see, when you really get them in a place where they can be safe and be vulnerable and be themselves, they just hurt, man. They're just hurt. And I think the force and the anger that we like to throw at these people sometimes only perpetuates that stuff. I think it's the love that's going to change these things. And God's love is an infinite game that can transcend and save lives. And we understand that. And that's where our faith comes from. That's why there's power in it. And so that even when you don't understand why you should love someone, like necessarily with the X's and O's, you don't know how it's going to turn them around. And even when you're doing it and you don't see it working within the first day or the first week, you understand that it's a stronger power, but it's also a more patient power. God is similar, not in power, but I'm just trying to give a small analogy, is the sun. Let's just say it was the middle of the day and it was beaming. Like, no one here is under the impression that the sun is not powerful. And it is hot. It's really hot, actually. Out here, your boy getting darker because I'm trying to walk, get my steps in. But it's powerful. But here's the thing, too. It's a patient power. It's like, I'm going to just be here and I'm going to keep shining. If I wanted to, I could hide myself from it. I could go into shade and I could find a deep, dark corner of the earth. And it's not going to force me to get any sunlight. It's not going to break down my walls, right? But nothing I do is also going to take away from it or harm it. And the moment I want to step outside and receive it, it's going to be there. And it's the same with God, but except that shade and that hiding that we do is usually from like our ego, us just looking at things selfishly. And so when we do not allow our ego, right, to add another layer of things, and we just keep being patient and shining on people with God's love, because it almost sounds painful because you're like, oh, Dion, I can't love them because if they're going to be disrespectful to me, that's how you know you're not loving how God loves, right? Because you're already talking about you. You're like, I need them to be, I'm being nice. Why aren't they being nice, right? When you are at a place where you have killed your ego, right? And I honest to God, I'm speaking from experience, but I've had issues where I run back to the shade. Sometimes I like putting the ego on because I'm like, no, that really, really hurt, Ninja. I'm gonna go back. But when you have killed your ego, it's not as painful as it sounds because you're not worried about me. I'm strictly worried about you, how I can help you. And when you are disrespectful, I'm not even taking it personal. I'm like, okay, I'm here when you need it. And this is not a hard way to love. It sounds hard when you're like, oh, but they were disrespectful to you. Well, who says that has to hurt? Who says that has to keep you up at night? Who says any of that? And again, this is a God that if a ninja go down the street and scream that he hates God, how horrible God is, do you think God is in heaven? Like, oh, he's like, all right, cool. Whenever you're done, I'm here. When we love like that, man, it'll break down people's walls and their ego. And eventually they're going to step out, get a little bit of that sunlight and can't get enough of it. It's a very, very patient game. It's a different game. And I just want you to keep that top of mind. When someone pop off at work and they're talking crazy, you'll be like, oh, I don't understand what to do because they're wrong. And I really should know. You should love them. You understand why.
What's going on, party people? Listen, I'm just popping in real quick to let you know that I've got a new podcast I'm whipping up in the kitchen called The Bridge Podcast. I'm part of it with co-host Pastor Demetrius Colbert, who you've seen on this channel quite a few times. And we're here having real, raw, and relevant conversations.
We are going to say what you say. So sometimes it might be a little PG-13 because we're going to say what you say, like clapping cheeks, like they turned me on to that. Clapping cheeks. I was like, what? I was like,
yeah, what? They're talking loud of their masturbation experiences, their experiences, what they're currently doing when they get home at night, who's doing what, how many times, how did it feel, sore, all that good stuff. I mean, they're getting in it. Now, before you get to thinking, no, you don't gotta be a Christian to check out this podcast, because at the end of the day, that we are all humans having life experiences, have questions, serious topics, serious concerns that we all would love to be helped with and get navigation with. And so this is where we come in, looking to give some insight from my perspective and his, that we could come together and share some wisdom that I think will be beneficial for you and the journey of life you're on.
The whole point of the bridge, again, is for you to be able to get on it and not criticize the bridge, but to use the bridge and say, I need to walk across on this side and hear what needs to be said. I need to walk across on that side and hear what needs to be said.
So don't forget to check us out. Link is in the description, and I can't wait to see you there.